Why, hello everyone, and welcome to the stream. This is Otaku Showboat. Today is Thursday, March the 9th, 2023. Right off the bat, I want to say that this weekend for the United States will be the start of daylight savings time yet again. So, yeah, clocks will be changing just in case there's going to be a difference between, Europe and North America, because there is a bit of a difference in the timing on when we do these things. Just as we're clear, for us, our daylight savings will start this weekend. Oh joy, oh bliss, losing an hour of rest is just wonderful. Also, just to mention at the start of the stream, I have recently decided that in order to reward support for the channel, that for every 10 US dollars that is provided in support to the channel during the stream from any source whatsoever, in actuality, as long as it can come up on my tracker and I can see it during the stream. In total, not from any one person, just as long as the total reaches 10, I will stream for an additional hour. We usually go for 3 hours. I will go for a 4th hour. We will go until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Eastern Time, from 10 to 2, if we hit 10 USD. Before the normal end of the stream. So, what's happened last couple of days? We have had a beta update for the PySuite. I will note, because I didn't immediately notice this, the beta update includes an update to PyBlock as well as to the rest of the PySuite. So be very careful when downloading the beta, because you may inadvertently discover that PyBlock has enabled itself on you, even if you're not playing a PyBlock game. Ahem. And it will change some of your recipes if it is enabled inadvertently. Why they've decided to have this together with another update as well to the rest of the Pi suite, and just to have them together in the same location and telling people to download that folder is a little bit beyond my comprehension. I think it's incredibly stupid to do 2 discrete tests with 1 download like this. I think that they should have separated PyBlock, because PyBlock is not part of the Pi suite. It is not an official part of the Pi suite. It is something made by King Arthur that is adjacent to the Pi suite. It modifies the Pi suite, but it is not in and of itself part of the Pi suite. And if you're wanting to test a feature that's coming to the main Pi suite, and PyBlock being compatible with the Pi suite, which it hasn't been compatible, by the way. I don't think there's been an update to PyBlock since before PyAlien Life. These are 2 very discrete things to test, and the downloads you should not be able to download both at the same time from like 1 download source like that. Like, come on, that's dumb. And they shouldn't be in the same topic of discussion on the Discord server either. There should be a separate discussion between the upgrade system, which is being brought back, and a separate discussion for PyBlock. And you should really make big announcements saying, hey, PyBlock, it's working now. You can start a PyBlock game and tell us what's wrong with it. Please, test PyBlock. Test PyBlock, start saves, test PyBlock. Do this, please. I'm saying, please do this. It is a thing, it is important. It's just that it's come very under the radar because they put both of these updates for PyBlock and the turd upgrade system together in the same discussion, and literally no one's talking about PyBlock. And there have been more than 1 person where PyBlock has been inadvertently enabled on a regular save, because I didn't really realize that it was going to be enabled on a regular save when you download the folder of the mods. It's super dumb. So, that being said, let me show the game. Hi, welcome to the game. Last time we met, I got into chemical science. It was absolutely glorious, and we were working towards getting into the neuroprocessors. I needed to set up epoxy and Nextlit whatevers. The whatever the hell they're called. What are they again? Nextlit matrix. Yeah, these things. I needed to set up both of these so that I could set up neuroprocessors. But we had an issue where my base died from lack of power. Since, I started processing science. Hello, welcome to the stream. We're going to be ranting for about an hour, maybe. I don't know how long we're going to be ranting, but I will be ranting for a little bit before we really get into actual progression on this day. So, yeah. Hi, welcome. You just missed me saying, hey, you probably should have separated PyBlock and the upgrade system. Like discrete discussions and downloads for these 2 things. Probably should have done that from the start, because I am now not the only one where PyBlock has been inadvertently enabled upon downloading the beta stuff for the game. I mean, I get that it says that PyBlock is in that thing, and I saw that PyBlock was in that thing. I did not know that it was actually like updated to work because it hasn't been updated to work since pre-PyAlien life. And I also didn't know that I didn't even have the old version of PyBlock in my save, in my install, which even if I had overwritten it, wouldn't have automatically enabled the mod if it was already there. But apparently it wasn't already there, so the game thought it was a new mod that I added to the game, and therefore it decided it was going to enable it by default because I have it. There's a setting right here. There's a setting. Other. Yeah, automatically enable new mods. Did you know that this works on manually putting files into the mod folder? Did you know that this setting right here works when you manually place mods into the mod folder? I didn't know that. I thought that this setting only worked when you installed mods through the in-game mod manager, to have it automatically enable a mod that you have downloaded through the in-game mod manager. So yeah, now I know. It will apply to anything you ever put into your mod folder. If it is a new mod, it will enable it automatically if you have this enabled. I mean, yes, it does say enables new mods automatically, but I mean, come on. I expect there to be some limitation on it. There are no limitations. There are none. So, yeah, be careful. Be careful when, if you want to download the beta updates. Be careful about what you put in, because the game will enable things you may not want enabled. How does one recover from that? Just disable it. Disable it, for one. Which I did. I also reverted a save because, yesterday morning... Actually, yesterday I wasn't feeling good either. I felt like utter garbage yesterday. Like, all day. But in particular, in the morning, I was just... could barely concentrate on anything. I spent a couple of hours, making changes... because I thought that things had changed on recipes to, automation science and to, the landfill. And so I just reverted the save to a previous thing. I'm saying that that there should be a discrete separation between the two things. If you want to test turd with PyBlock, that's fine. That needs to be a discrete thing in the PyBlock discussion, not with the main set of mods. You need to test the upgrade system with just the PySuite and make sure that works, and you need to test it with PyBlock and make sure that PyBlock's working with it. These are two discrete tests that need to be separate from each other. All right. That being said, we have the upgrade system. It exists. It exists. Well, I would like there to be an alert, not if you have the, it's not about having both on at the same time. I would like to see some sort of an alert if you try loading a save that, doesn't have water everywhere. If a save has not initiated with PyBlock, and then you try loading the save with PyBlock on, there should be, a warning hey, PyBlock's on. It looks like you didn't have it on before. Are you sure you want to actually have this on? It's... Anyway, things. We have this now. And there's another thing that has come with this that I did not agree with, but we'll get to that. In fact, we'll probably get to that first thing. So, these upgrades, you take technology, you research technologies. They're relatively expensive to actually get these technologies researched, and you're given a choice of options that are permanent choices that can do various things. And I've made a couple of selections already. We'll go through each of the things that I have enabled here and decide ultimately what we want from these things. But with this has come a nerf to productivity modules that I fundamentally disagree with, so I have put it back to the way it was. I have made a manual modification to the beta files to revert this productivity change. They made it like 4% productivity at level 1. Like, what in God's name are you thinking? Like, seriously. The argument is that these upgrades make up for it. No, they do not. Not even in the slightest do these upgrades make up in any way, shape, or form to a productivity module nerf. If you're going to nerf the productivity modules, own it. Don't try to make bullshit excuses for it, because I'm just going to call you out about it, no matter what. This does not, at all, make up for a nerf in productivity modules. And for the most part, the turret upgrade systems behave on entities that didn't take productivity modules anyway. Like, come on. Just, like, basic stuff here. Productivity modules apply to way more than anything that this upgrade system touches, only if you have added to these upgrades every building in the Pi suite to have options for upgrades. Would the argument that nerfing productivity modules makes sense be valid? But as it turns out, no, it does not currently touch everything. So don't mess with the modules. Either way, it won't be relevant in this save after I get access to level 4 modules. To the rest of the, like, pure modules from Bob's Mods modules. When I get the Bob's Modules stuff going, I won't have 1, 2, or 3 basic level productivity modules anymore. And I'll have modules that are going to be significantly better. It's just, to this point, I have been designing factories that exist in my base around the fact that level 1 modules have 10% productivity on them. And changing that out of the blue is not kind in the slightest. So I'm not going to play with that going forward. And every update hereafter, even in the live release, if it sticks the way it is, I'm going to be manually reverting that change to the old values of 10, 20, 30. You know, it would have been fine if it was just like 10, 15, 20. That would have been fine. But no, you went to like 4, 7, 10. Something like that. Like, no. No, that's not even good in the slightest. Just no. Just no. This doesn't make up for it in the slightest. So, what do these things do? What options do we have? Well, I've picked up a few of these texts, and I guess I'll talk a bit about what I've chosen thus far. Bearing in mind that this is a beta, things are going to change, adjustments are going to happen, that's just the way of things. It's not out yet, and even once it's out, they're still going to change it on you without, you know, caring about anything. So, you know, that's just the way of things. Things will change, and nothing you can say about it. So, what did I pick? Right, forestry upgrades. These upgrades, overall, for forestry, are relatively weak, to be completely honest. The fiber one is fine, early, and drops off the moment you stop making fiber out of wood. So, yeah. It doubles your fiber per unit of wood, but ultimately, you know, kickalk exists, and the sugar recipe exists. Therefore, not a great option if you're trying to make a decision that's going to last the entire game. You know? And the only way to change what you picked here is to reset everything with a space science technology. That is an infinite technology that will get more expensive every single time. And if you reset everything, well, then chances are you've broken many aspects of your base in the process. So be sure you know what you're changing ahead of time and, keep record of everything you selected so that you know what to reselect and what you want to change if you do want to do that reset. What else have I picked? I picked a Moondrop upgrade. I picked this one because apparently now we can get carbon dioxide for literally nothing. Alright, so of these options, you have the option to add copper to improve the output. It just changes the recipes to require copper ores. It's fine. I think that this is fine. I think that 20 ore is a bit too much. It's fine to add the ore, and I'm sure 20 ore is fine on these more advanced recipes, but 20 across the board, no. Not when you're only adding 1 on the output. Like, 1 unit of output is not worth... Like, 1 Moondrop is in no way or shape or form worth 20 ore. Like, And it's slightly faster, too. It's ever so slightly faster. I don't really see the value here. Like, at all. And then this Moonlight one, it's okay. I don't know how these module effects scale with building mark level. I am extremely hesitant to pick any option in this upgrade system that uses a module effect. So it may be a real speed plus 20% at Mark 1. I do not know in what way it carries this over to Mark 2, 3, and 4 of this building. So basically the building will get a module effect applied to it, which we can't even add in Hellmod, by the way. So there goes any form of factory planning when you have these modules on, just period. It adds lamps to the actual building recipes, but that I don't really care too much about. Oh, haha, look at that. It gets rid of the mechanical parts on the Mark 3s. Personal laser defense added to Mark 2. Personal laser defense added to Mark 2. Okay. And it simplifies a bit some of these recipes for these increased mark level buildings. So the issue is, as building mark level increases, so do module slot counts. And it's not always the same depending on the building type, like how much of a percentage gain you get. I don't believe it's the same for every building. Unless they've changed, unless it is, without me knowing, because I'm pretty sure some buildings got double, some buildings get 50%, some get like 25% more. I don't know. It's just weird sometimes. There was a lot of weirdness. If it's been made like a consistent percentage increase, fine, but like, are you going to like have 2 of these modules applied to the Mark II building? Are you going to have 3 of these on the Mark III? Are you going to have 4 of these on the Mark IV? I don't know how this is implemented, because if it's only the one applied at every mark level, the increased mark level buildings are not going to be plus 20% speed overall as a percentage of the total module slots in the buildings. The this plus 420 will be worth less because there's going to be more modules offsetting it. Well, the thing is, I don't have these upgrades, and I have already selected CO2. I have already selected CO2. That is now never going to change. I'm going to pick CO2 every single time. Every single time I will go with CO2. Is what I'm saying here. Ultimately. Because even at 20% real speed increase, it's not worth it. I will very gladly, though, take CO2 for nothing. This has already been nerfed. I'm still going to take it every single time, even in its currently nerfed state. The craft time, I think, was increased to 6 seconds, and it does 80 CO2 versus 100 before. I have built a factory making 4,000 CO2 per second from Moondrop. And, where did I do it? Where did I do it? Should be obvious. Where is it? Hello? It was down here. There you are. Hi. 304 Mark 1 buildings. You can place it where you need it to avoid logistics, but I've done a discrete factory because we're going to need a lot of it. Yeah. So it's 76, 75-ish to get 1,000 CO2 at Mark 1 after the nerf. Yeah, it's 75 even per 1,000. So I did a line 76, and I have 4 of those lines of 76 to get 4,000 CO2. Most of the time, you do not need this much CO2. There are exceptions. The main one being chromium. The main exception is chromium. My current chromium build is using more than 1,000 units of CO2 per second. And I was able to adjust that build to get rid of a lot of entities converting tar to biomass to CO2. Essentially, by having this, anytime you need CO2, where I had previously made it out of biomass locally, I can delete the entire infrastructure that makes that CO2 and bring it in by train. Most of the time, it is replacing a tar input with a carbon dioxide input, and that's it. And you can get rid of all those other buildings, the recycling centers and the high pressure furnaces. Sometimes I still need biomass, though. So in the times where I need biomass as biomass and need CO2, I'll just make CO2 out of biomass local. It's fine. But for any time I only needed the CO2 and not the biomass, I have been working on converting to importing the CO2. Like here with the cellulose build, I had tar to CO2. I got rid of that entire infrastructure and just brought in CO2 by train. And up at the build for the chromium here, you can see this great big gap here between the limestone and the rest of the build, processing 75 ore into a bunch of plates. Oh, excuse me, but you needed to be connected. Hello. Or into a bunch of plates. It's a huge thing there. Is the CO2 throughput consistent? Sufficient? Yes. Yes, I have, like, multiple stuff here to make sure that my throughput is sufficient on that build. If I can remember where in this list I had it, it was you. 1,725. Yeah, so the 300 plus buildings is letting me remove more than that from the rest of the base. It's a little bit more complex than that because it's not just the factory count, it's also the belts and the loaders that are removed from the equation. So even though it may have not removed 304 of these, it's removed a lot of belt and belt processing, and that matters too. Belts are still entities, and moving stuff on belts also takes processing. By the way, I got these now. Say hello to the multi-purpose pipes. The indestructible multi-purpose pipe, at least by impact. They redid the art on the pipe to grounds. Still looks a little odd though, frankly. Yeah, it looks off. They changed the pipe to ground. It used to be this box. It used to be the box. You know, this little thingy here, this thingy. That's what the undergrounds looked like. So the main thing here is that it needs to be like actually squared. It needs to be like an actual right angle and both ends the same length. Like, what even? This art extends beyond the bounds of the tile, for one, which is a little awkward. But, yeah, this bend, the bend, should be in the middle of the square, right? Yeah, it does extend. It does extend out of the tile. The base of this needs to be in the middle. The base needs to be in the middle. I think that'll make it look, you know, a heck of a lot better without really even changing the art about it. Like, you can trim the straight segment here and just trim that straight segment and move the rest of it in a bit. It's a lot better than what it was, yes, but it's still off. So, yeah, I'm gonna pick the CO2 even if they nerf it in half again, like, frankly. Even if this only made like 2,000 per second, I'm just gonna add more. I'll just add more. Like, it's gonna scale better at Mark II, and I'm about to actually get Mark II stuff, right? Like, when I get Mark II and I get Mark II modules, this gets better. Like, it'll further reduce the entity count with increasing mark levels of this building. Just this recipe existing pretty much outshines any of the other options. Just by it existing in the first place. But I can see folks who are okay with making CO2 out of biomass, just not picking this because it is an easy alternative. It's an incredibly easy alternative. I just am focusing on the options that give me what I see as the best return on performance. If I wasn't as concerned about that, if I wanted productivity, I would pick the copper edition. Even though it is a lot of copper, I would pick this just to improve the outputs considerably. But I'm also taking into consideration how much Moondrop do I actually need? Like, really? And how big of a build is Moondrop actually? So all that comes into play with these choices. What else have I picked. So we talked Fastwood, we talked Moondrop. I need to talk Data Array. The Data Array is the last one that I picked, and I'm going to stick with this. The Data Array upgrades are not particularly great overall. The reason I say that is, in my case, with Bob's modules. In my case with Bob's modules, okay? Keeping that in mind. Data arrays have 5 module slots. Let's keep in mind, data arrays, they have 5 module slots. And in the late game, my modules for productivity will be plus 40% each. 40? Yes, I'm pretty sure they're 40 each. So 40 times 5 productivity. Or speed. The speed is like 100+% per module. Efficiency is minus 80%. Actually, more than minus 80% at the level 8 module, which what even here? So pure speed is plus 160. Efficiency is a full minus 80 on it. So 160 and 80 there. And then for productivity, we've got 40. Yeah. So 40, 160, and minus 80. Here's the thing with the data array upgrades. Your first option gives you 10% productivity for plus 2,000% energy consumption. Just so we know, this building uses 1.24 megawatts by default. Times, or add 2,000% to that. And you get, per data array, a consumption that is, I'm pretty sure that's a gigawatt. 2 gigawatts. The data array will use more energy than a particle accelerator, if you pick that option. Or a 10% productivity bonus. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that power increase and its requisite infrastructure is not going to be worth that 10% gain under any circumstance. Because, yeah, you'll have to make more power to support them. So I consider that option to be pretty weak overall. Especially in my case, where I will have modules that is going to add 40% times 5. My math is a bit off. It's only 25 megawatts. What? Plus 2,000%. Yeah, because 200 would be 3. Or 2.5. 2.5, so yeah, 20. It's still too high. Even at 25 megs, alright? Even at 25 megs, it's still not going to be worth it. Like, it's still not. Because that's energy infrastructure that needs to be put in place. More energy infrastructure getting utilized for that increase in power. Just, no. Either way, 10% on a save, where you have 40% modules at the end of the game, times 5, is pretty meaningless. And also that plus 2,000, you have to think, even if you have beacons all around it with that minus 80%, it would be like 2,000 minus 80, minus 80, minus 80, minus 80, minus 80, minus 80, just to overcome that 2,000. That's a lot of modules that could have been going towards speed as well. So yeah, not a fan at all. Weak, no matter what, under like all circumstances. Now, by not picking this, I have essentially left 10% on the table for making neuroprocessors at this point in the game, but I have to think about end game since we can't really change these options. I understand that they affect all of the recipes. I'm saying that the 10% productivity on this at the end of the game will not be worth it, and none of the things that the data array does are worth that 10% productivity. Data array does not do too awfully much with stuff that doesn't allow productivity on it inherently. Like, I don't even know what recipes on the data array doesn't take productivity that actually matters. The third option for the solar panels does make it go faster and use less power. It's okay, I guess. It's okay. 30%. I mean, most of these recipes are very slow on the data array to begin with. It would help a bit. But again, 30% on a building with 5 module slots, if I really wanted speed, and is large and could put lots of beacons around it, you can get the speed elsewhere. You can get the speed elsewhere. It also changes the recipe to use portable solar panels that you have to make. So I was like, okay. The final option, and the one that I ended up going with, is also not... It's not great, to be honest, in the end game, but I've gone with it anyway. This lets you basically just spend an iron chest to make a generic Earth DNA sample. At the end of the game, there is one consistent use of generic DNA samples that is going into science. I'm pretty sure it's just one. I haven't really looked too deeply at the other DNA samples that these make, but you need generic DNA samples to make the MOVA replicator, and I believe that the MOVA can only get made in smart farms, meaning you need the replicator to spawn MOVA, which is an item that you need for late game science. So I figured, you know what? May as well make this free. Have one little bit of bonus there on that recipe. And, you know, make everything else a little bit easier to get the initial creatures that we still haven't gotten at this point. And it's a relatively simple setup. I've got, you know, 3,700 now of this generic DNA sample. I will not be running out ever. And we don't have to spend biosamples on these anymore, or automation science on these anymore. So that's the thing. You may have noticed I have thickets getting made. They're not really making right now. I need to bring blood to my mall, but here they are. Glorious thickets. Mining Nextlet down here. They're a little bit bigger than the Digosaurs. Just a bit bigger than the Digosaurs. They bring twice as much ore per fuel that they use. I've been looking at making the worker food. Don't worry, I'm at that point where I am looking at the worker food, and I am looking at the processing that we can now do for Nextlet plates. I'm definitely looking at all this. I'm considering whether or not I want to wait until full Mark II's availability for all of this. I'll note that I do have Mark II stuff now getting made. I've made a number of the electronics Mark II stuff. I've unlocked a lot of Mark II building access. We do need to make the neuroprocessors to make all of it, though. And we have a bit of a limitation on production from, not having enough circuit 2s for all of it. And not enough, small parts for all of this. That was another thing that I've been trying to scale, is the small parts. Because holy crap, I need so many small parts. And I needed to scale the iron to provide this many small parts. Like this right here, this is 45. This is 45 small parts per second. And it's not enough. It's not enough for the base at the moment. Right, so we'll get into the rest of these upgrades. So those were the options that I've picked thus far. What about the things that I have not made a decision yet about? Archods. For Archods, we have the return of the ability to just make Archod queens out of the codices and the DNA samples, and some cDNA and biosamples and coke oven gas. It guarantees a queen. There is a benefit to being able to guarantee the queen. It is very expensive. I will note, though, that, a lot of this is productive. Biosamples are not, but there are other upgrades that we could get to improve biosamples as well. Mildly tempting, but there are other things here. We have CAGS, the Climate Adaptive Glass Shell recipe, which we could make this thing. I don't like how it's costing that much silver, and that it's 10 of literally everything. But we only need, what? Oh, we need 10 of them per apiary. Keeping in mind that anything we've already placed, we can ignore this, right? And everything that we've built already doesn't need... We don't add these to it. Like, everything we've built ahead of time doesn't really matter. This only changes the recipe for stuff going forward. This gives 3% productivity as a module effect. And again, I don't know how it's scaling with the increased mark level of the buildings. Pretty sure this would only be the one time to all of these buildings, unlike the speed ones, which lose effectiveness, oddly, with increasing mark level of building unless the module gets multiplied. So, 3%. This gets applied to everything that the apiary does. So we have to keep in mind, if you're making Archods, that there are several, at least 3? How many steps are there that use, discrete steps in the apiary settings here? So we've got one making the Archods, that would get a 3%. One making queens, that would get a 3%. By the way, that would apply here, and it would guarantee a queen output every time that hits on this. Right? I'm pretty sure that that productivity is always a guaranteed output, right? And the queen is the primary product of this process? Pretty sure the queen is the primary product. I'll have to check that. Because if the queen is the primary product, it's the thing that the productivity is used on. And yeah, that would completely nullify the benefit of direct queen assembly. So that's a thing that makes me think. Then you also have the nests. The nests would get a 3% as well. I have to see what the upgrades are to the frouk paddock, because this step for the maggots would get whatever the frouk paddock gets. And And I'm pretty sure that this CAGS effect also impacts the Archod recipes of the reproductive complex. Oh, and it's affecting, of course, up here for these apiaries making the combs, the filled combs, and these combs up here. So we would have 3%, 3% would not affect the output here, I'm pretty sure. 3%, 3%, 3%, which will guarantee an output, I'm pretty sure, and 3% here. So even if we ignore the queen, that's 3, 6, 9, or 3, 6, 9 on the actual direct line here. Yeah, so it's pretty good. It's pretty good, I think. Even at a low value, because of the number of steps involved, you get cascading productivity on this. That's a pretty good one, though it does come at this cost of the climate shell. The other stuff here, adding nitrogen and lowering your output of queens. You get a chance of losing your queen here, a bigger chance of losing your queen. On all of these steps, and these don't really do anything. The thing that this intentional colony collapse does is that it improves the amount of wax that you get by 3 across the board, as well as the amount of honey that you get by 3. If we only ever needed wax and honey from Archods, that would be fine. But we don't, so I'm not gonna pick it, like, ever. I don't see myself ever picking the intentional colony collapse option. It's interesting, but it would need to improve the output of, like, jelly and the other stuff, and it has 0 effect on the, like, venom either. But that's the slaughterhouse that would affect venom. I was sort of looking at the slaughterhouse ones. It's interesting. With the slaughterhouse, you basically get to pick between 3 different sets of stuff to improve the outputs of, and that one's an actual decision to make. Here, I'm pretty sure I'm picking CAGs. I'm pretty sure I'm picking CAGs for this. It would... I don't know if it would guarantee this output on the productivity proc on this queen production step. And it would be 3%, so whatever that translates to, every 34th cycle, a guaranteed output. I think. This is a module effect as well that Hellmod will never be able to properly utilize. Because in Hellmod, these effects are added just to the building's thingy, and I don't remember there being that option for the, like, hidden beacon. There was a way previously, but I'm not sure anymore. Let's go to Archods and let's click on this. So this recipe here, it's got this option, but we don't have, like, the hidden beacon listed here anymore as a beacon. So in order for me to actually have the CAGs here, I have to remove an Archod from it, and then I don't get the proper, like, speed for it. So that made it 0.03 nests versus still 0.03 nests. 0.03 combs. 0.03 combs. So if there's any effect here at all, it's not having any impact on the numbers. Or I'm just not, the numbers just aren't big enough and it's rounding. Here, let me put like, make 1,000. Make 1,000 and then we can see if this actually has any effect. So we have 0.26 and 25.81. Let's add the CAGs and see if it changes. It did change it. It did change it, you see? See that? It still says we need 0.26, but now we need 24.99 nests versus 25.81. So that 3% does impact the queen output. There you go. According to Helmod, it impacts the queen output. It's a 3% productivity, which should be a guaranteed output on that 3% every time it hits, which would be every 33.33 repeating cycles. And then I'm pretty sure... Oh, you don't actually get it on this one. Interesting. There are some reproductive complex recipes that get species-specific bonuses. Module effect bonuses. There are some that do that. But apparently not for Archods. Alright then. How about for Frouk? Do you get a effect only if you pick natural cycle? Which reduces speed, but not by much, and you get more productivity. Huzzah. 10%. You can get 10% productivity to the night cycle on the natural cycle for Frouk. Which I was tempted by as well. Ooh, that's a good question. Hello. Haha, this is a recipe which outputs cages. Can somebody say free cages? Because we're just getting free cages here. Yeah, we're getting 10% more cages than we put in this recipe. Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah, you need to mark the cages as not being a primary output on this to get the... I think that there's a way to get the productivity to ignore the cages, but yeah, I figured that would be an issue. But yeah, this would get the 3%. Vastly reducing the amount of Frouk you would need, ultimately, and this would also get the 3%. It sucks I don't get to see all of the speed of the Archods. It really affects the numbers here. But yeah, you get like the 3% here, as well. Yeah, I know it works with the uranium stuff, but I don't know if, like, how hard-coded it is. If like, you can get it around that by applying similar mechanics to other recipes. So yeah, this gets it. This would get it. I did say we were going to be talking about this for a while, right? about the tech upgrades. It's already about an hour in. Yeah, so you end up with all of those. If I go back to, like... Ultimately, I want 5, but we're going to have different recipes that we'll use when I unlock them. Yeah. Numbers. I think I want this. Think I want this. Yeah. So for Archods, I'm picking CAGs. You can't stop me. I'm doing it. Now the question is, does it impact existing buildings? Yes. Productivity +3 is listed right there. Productivity +3 applied to that building. Productivity +3 applied to that building. To all those. Good. Good. They has it, and they're full complements. So the only thing I need to bear in mind is that I will not be able to actually make any additional apiaries than I currently have until I make CAGs. And then I have to provide it to make the Mark II apiaries, which I will be able to make as soon as I get into neuroprocessors. Yeah, I just need a thing making these. Creamy latex though. Alright, fine, whatever. Yeah, I definitely see value in that 3% here. Because that gets rid of some uncertainty of the outputs on these. Because what, this is a 1% normally output chance for the queen. Does this show me percentage? 0.01. It's a 1% chance to get the Archod queen on here. So by having the productivity, Helmut's numbers did not actually show a drastic reduction, now did it? It may still be a 1% on the productivity hit. I think it's still that 1% on the productivity of it actually giving you something. Because if it was a guaranteed 1 every 33, then that would have a huge amount of difference on the number of nests required to get the necessary output of the queens. It would be massive. Anyway. Oh, I didn't check if it worked on the barrels. Hey, do you work on the barrels? Because the barrels should be considered catalysts. 8.7 plus 2.61 is 11.31. So, yeah, it's not applying... Oh, I'm not even looking at the right thing. Hold up. 0.43 plus 0.26 is 0.69. Yeah, it's not applying to the barrels. So the barrels are considered here for the output to not apply to that output for productivity. Oh, but here it's been missed. Look right here. This one. You're getting more barrels out than in on this step. And you're getting more barrels out than in on this step. So, hey, Nut Melon, I've got a thing for you to do. You gotta mark the empty barrels on the Archod recipes as being like catalysts or something. Get them to not be affected by the productivity bonuses, because the barrels are and the cages are. But apparently not for this recipe. I guess it's just too low of output to see. Like, it's a rounding error. Interesting. Very interesting. I don't know why Helmut's not telling me about these empty combs, but whatever. Oh, because it's down here. Oh. Right. I didn't even think of that either. Huh. Interesting. That makes sense too. So adding productivity to this means that you're going to get more Archod empty honeycombs out, ultimately. Yeah, you're going to end up with more empty honeycombs in this cycle whenever you are trying to get honey. That's neat. Because, yeah, it's less empty honeycombs per unit honeycomb that you end up with. And then it's a 1-to-1 when you make the honey. Extract the honey. Well then, that is fine, I guess. Next. We made that decision. Next is fish. I want to look at fish, because I wasn't so sure about what I wanted for fish. So we can change the fish recipes to output a unit of fish food at the cost of a percentage of fish versus the basic recipe. So we can get lower output of fish, but get back fish food, basic fish food, which saves on ingredient costs overall, but ultimately increases the other costs for a given output. Or we can have this module effect that will increase speed by 10% per building, apparently. Again, not interested in the straight speed only stuff because I don't know how it properly would scale with increasing building mark level. It may be 10% at Mark 1, but I don't know if it is actually going to be 10% at Mark 2, 3, and 4. Yeah, because it competes with more modules of the actual fish in here. And then we're given the eggs recipe set. This improves the output and it makes it faster. So fish, phytoplankton, saline, 80 seconds versus 72, 25 versus 29, and rather than wastewater, you get pressured water. So, more eggs, and rather than wastewater, you get pressured water. Now, in some instances, you could consider that problematic if you're using the wastewater. There are certain things that you can do with wastewater, but yeah, I think I prefer this one. I prefer this. I will go with this, and because this ultimately I think has a bigger impact than this top one. Because the only thing that you save here is the fish food. Now, on the very basic recipe that doesn't use fish food in its own recipe, you can use the fish food for the eggs recipe. I haven't researched too awfully much the actual effect to the numbers of these, though. But I still think that having more eggs is better. Especially the later that you go, because every single time you're spending 10 eggs to get your output of fish. As you improve the recipes, those 10 eggs make even more fish. At the top end, you can have basically a 1-to-4 ratio, 1 egg into 4 fish. So think of it as on this top recipe for the fish eggs, where we have 12 fish into 45 eggs versus 52. Well, that's a 7 egg difference, which 7 times 4 fish Like, yeah, 7 times 4 more fish just for free, and it's faster. And it's faster for lower building count in general. Like, why not? Why not? Why not? Why not? And there might be changes to to the food at some point. We'll see about that. I'm inclined to do this one. I'm going to, even though I am going to do this one, I need to look at fish because this is still, or this is going to change to pressured water, but this will still be wastewater, and they are connected pipes. So I have to make some manual edits to my factories before selecting this tech here, this tech upgrade. And that will apply to a few other areas as well. Incubator upgrades. We get a choice of buffing, biosamples, zogna, or manure bacteria. So what do we want to do? Do we want to add an ingredient to manure bacteria to increase its output by 50% in the form of the fish hydrolysate? So spending fish to increase the output by 50% on the manure bacteria. Or do we want to remove lamps from the equation for zogna bacteria, but at the cost of it taking twice as long for the recipe to happen? So we have the speed, but we remove lamps. Or do we add pressurized air and water to get a 1.5 biosample, a 50% more biosamples output? This is a real decision here between biosamples, zogna, and manure bacteria. So, what do we want? I'll note, I need to look at what of these is productive. So which of these is productive? So we have manure, bacteria, through this recipe. We have zogna, through that recipe. And we have biosamples, through that recipe. What is productive? Biosamples are not. Zogna is. And manure is. So for the manure bacteria, bear in mind that manure bacteria is used pretty heavily in tufa production. It would involve this recipe, and I believe that this recipe is not productive. So spending sulfuric acid, sodium hydroxide, and fish to make this fish hydrolysate for the manure bacteria, just so as we know, with tufa, where do I have tufa in here, or do I need to add it again? I don't know where my tufa is. Where did my tufa go? Tufa. Tufa. We have that recipe. If I want 15 tufa, that's 93.75 before looking at the extra amount we need for the thingies. So we need 136.4 manure bacteria. So if we do 150, that's 2 fish that would be needed versus more petri dishes, agar, and manure, right? So we need to compare, like, hey, and we will have productivity module availability here. And that's as opposed to the Zogna, which gets rid of the lamps entirely, and the biosamples, which increases the output by 50% for basically just power between the pressured air and the pressured water. Because biosamples are not productive, I'm more inclined to pick biosamples, but I also need to think, how many biosamples will I need versus how much Zogna will I need versus how much manure bacteria will I need. Okay? How much will I need of these things in the late game? That is the question. How much in the late game will these things be required? I know I'm going to need a pretty significant amount of, I think, all of them. Of everything. So, but if anything, I think there's less biosamples overall. And biosamples are made from metals and mineable resources. They're made from mineable resources that by the end of the game will be ubiquitous and very high volume availability. Lamps are also made out of metals and glass that by the end of the game will be ubiquitous, plentiful, very easy to get into. Even petri dishes. Even the petri dishes will be very easy to get into later in the game. So, I'm just gonna pick Zogna, I think, just as a default here, because I don't really have much of a reason to do any of them, ultimately, by the end of the game. I think that the impact of all of these is roughly the same, which is good. And, yeah, I'd rather eliminate an ingredient than add an ingredient. Yeah, I'd rather just eliminate the ingredient rather and go with that there. So Zogna is now slowed in half. I have to go and address that where I make it currently, or just make a factory making it. That's fine too. It's just a shame that, unlike before with the incubator upgrades, that we don't get a productivity gain, flat productivity gain to the incubator. So that's lovely. Moss. We could add chlorine to make more moss. That's not going to happen under any circumstances ever. Chlorine is too expensive to make to justify it, along with plastic for making moss. Moss, a thing that we need literally infinite amounts of. Not going to happen. Also, the internal bioreactor. That's also something I'm not going to do. I do not need to decompose these things, although maybe the refined natural gas one would be relevant. I'm not going to go with it. I would go with the high density culture, which replaces muddy sludge with water across the board. But this is another one of those things where I need to adjust the existing factories before I pick it. I need to adjust it and prep for it, because the whole thing would break the minute that I select this option. It is a 1-to-1 transition from muddy sludge into water. This is not a particularly high impact, though, in particular because these recipes, due to needing coarse fraction, often end up also providing a lot of sand that you can use to make muddy sludge. However, However, there used to be a way of getting into coarse fraction through iron sticks. So by selecting this, we can change how we get the ingredients for making moss by being able to spend a bit of iron on making the moss with recipes that are productive. So this is good. I need to change the factories before I select the option, just so we know that will be the option that I go with, because it will fundamentally alter how I build moss going forward. Seaweed. Because we've talked about everything that we have to this point. For seaweed, we have improved pathfinding, precision harvesting, and recirculation pumps. Improved pathfinding improves speed and increases the energy cost, and we've already had this conversation about the speed. Not particularly ideal. It is a 30% real speed bonus on Mark 1. I'm assuming only Mark 1. And we'll see how it impacts later things. It also makes them more complex to build by adding combinators. Precision harvesting reduces speed and gives 10% productivity bonus by reducing speed, which on the flip side won't be as big of a reduction with increasing mark level of buildings because it's offset by more modules. So that's tempting. 10% productivity. But then again, seaweed. It's seaweed. Is productivity relevant for seaweed? Or would we rather not use any fluid whatsoever when making the seaweed? Across any of the recipes. With the exception of slaked lime and CO2. Would we rather not use water / saline water for making seaweed? For reference, right now I am doing this recipe, water to seaweed, with Mark III seaweed modules as the modules in the buildings. And it's actually relatively small of a build. It's relatively small. Making 75 per second, I have this 121 seaweed crops facilities to make 75 per second seaweed with Mark III modules just out of water. By taking this option, it would no longer need water at all, so there's a whole bunch of water wells and pipes that can be eliminated from the map. But we'd also get access to this as well, and have it no longer need saline water. The biggest problem with this recipe was that it used saline. This doubles the output at a faster speed, which, if you can make your carbon dioxide for free from Moondrop, and you can make your limestone for free from water local to the build, this could be an option. I would need to look at the actual building counts involved with this to compare, just to see if actually going from the basic recipe to this more advanced recipe would, if it's like balanced actually in terms of the number of buildings, but it would definitely be a decrease in the total footprint of the build. And then, of course, there's the fertilizer input as well. Again, with the on-site CO2, we'd get 30 on the output, even faster than before, so even fewer buildings. And well, slaked lime, not free, would have to bring that in. Same with the fertilizer, would have to bring that in. I would not spend iron dust to make seaweed, but that's a 60 seaweed output, and then the last one's a 120 output for powdered phosphate rock. I don't think we need to go that far, realistically, especially if we're going to be going to Mark II seaweed crops soon, which will increase the number of module slots you can have. I'll have level 3 modules in them. I think at most I would do this second one in the grand scheme and make everything local to the seaweed, and it would be relatively small, compact, Mark II buildings across the board. I am just going to select this because it will break nothing. It will break absolutely nothing, and everything will operate just the same as it has before with the seaweed. And yeah, I have 0 regrets about making that selection on seaweed. Frouk. Yeah, I'm taking natural cycle here. Yeah, I'm just gonna take natural cycle here. We have the option to completely remove water barrels from making Frouk. This does not apply to making Frouk cocoons, so it's not as good as it could have been because it does not apply to the cocoons, or to the hatching of the cocoons, right? It does not apply, or no, this is hatching, excuse me. It does not apply to making cocoons. In the reproductive complex, you still need that setup anyway, and you're going to need to keep making this setup anyway with concentrated seed syrup barrels later if you want to do those recipes, and you have to do the water barrel shenanigans with all of the other creatures anyway, so I don't really see as big of a value of eliminating the water barrels from this. And then this cyanic hydrogen formic into ammonia and CO2. I don't understand why it exists. There's no way of getting into cyanic that doesn't involve making ammonia in the first place. And that's the inherent weakness. Like, the methods of getting into cyanic, I mean, unless you're making cyanic out of tholins, which, what? Why? It's either going to make ammonia with it, or you're spending meat for cyanic, or you're converting ammonia into it. I don't really get why you would then try to convert the cyanic into ammonia and spend formic on it. It's weird that it exists. Honestly, I don't think I would pick this under any circumstances, like, ever. It's a neat recipe. It's in a DDC. It has nothing to do with Frouk. So I'm just gonna do natural cycle. It does slow the buildings. I would need to adjust for the slowed buildings. But it's a 10% productivity bonus. I don't want to pick this immediately because it will break things, as we've seen. Yeah, it might not apply to the barrels. I might end up with a backup on empty barrels if I pick this now. So yeah, I need to make some adjustments before I go and select that. And for Zippo, I haven't looked at the Zippo options yet. This was a relatively recent thing that got picked up. So we could do temperature cycling to do what? We add liquid nitrogen and get nitrogen to gain +1 guaranteed. We would get... Oh, and you have to do red hot Coke into Coke. And phytoplankton barrel rather than phytoplankton, and I don't know why. Oh, because it's liquid nitrogen and you... And rather than using barreled liquid nitrogen, which I guess doesn't exist, I I guess you can't barrel liquid nitrogen currently. Like, I don't know why they would pick that to go in as the fluid rather than keep the phytoplankton. But anyway, that gives you a guaranteed +1 on the basic Zippo. And you get your nitrogen back, so ultimately you're actually only really spending like the red hot coke and the gasoline required to recondense the nitrogen. So that's actually a very significant early game Zippo buff, and even late game Zippo buff, because it goes from 2 to 3. It's a little less impactful the later that you get, but that's a really big improvement comparatively to the other options that we've seen thus far for similar situations where we've increased output on these recipes, but it does require more inputs. Again, a little problem. Remember, we don't actually have any Zippo currently in the base built. For this, we get what? This is a new recipe that guarantees 1 for 1. "170-second craft time." Oh, hey, these recipes are also significantly faster than the basic recipes. Yeah, so what was... Oh, you have to spend more larvae for that guaranteed output. Interesting. So basically with these, just to contrast this one larva for one Zippo, what's happening here is that you're getting essentially the same thing. You're getting 1 larva for 1 Zippo added to all of these recipes, but it's adding that red hot coke and that liquid nitrogen to also have the chance of getting the other additional output. So it's essentially combining this with the basic recipe for this guy. And it's faster. This is a lot simpler, though, being just fish food and phytoplankton and larvae. It gets rid of filtration media from the equation entirely. Phytoplankton is free to make. I have to research this. I need to look at the actual numbers involved and then reuse everything. Changes wastewater to acetone on the output and increases larvae output. And it's wastewater in. Ooh, it replaces pressured water with wastewater in. That sucks because there's no discrete way of getting into wastewater to start the process. I mean, I get it. You are taking the wastewater produced through the basic recipe. This makes 200 wastewater for its cycle, and you are using it here for these cycles, but I don't know if it's enough. If it will be enough. You get 250, 250, or 200. You get 200 here from 3 larvae, and this is 250 to make 6. So I guess that makes more, but... goodness. Yeah, I don't like that very much. Yes, it does produce acetone, and acetone is nice. I don't know. Please, give it a think. Give it a think. Which one would you prefer of these options between the temperature cycling, the remote growth technologies, and the reuse everything? Because all 3 of these are actually pretty decent. It's just trying to figure out what's the best. We're halfway through the stream, and we haven't even played the game yet. Isn't that glorious? We're going to play the game when I return from my break that I'm taking right now, since we're halfway through. I will be back shortly. I have returned. Welcome back. I've been continuing to give this a think on the Zippo. As nice as this recipe is for option 2, it doesn't really remove much complexity from the system, since you're going to have to do these larva recipes anyway. Right? Like, just because we get rid of the filtration media here doesn't mean we're still not going to need filtration media in that factory anyway to make the larva. So if we're going to need to have this stuff anyway, filtration media, blood meal, etc., if we want to do these more advanced larva recipes, may as well just go all in. Just do the full thing here. Yeah. So I think option 1 is going to be the option I go with, oddly enough. Yeah, the power goes up on... the power requirement goes up on these recipes, but I am more inclined in this specific instance to add these 2 inputs I think, to get the improved output, because I think that will ultimately reduce the build by more than what the inputs will require. It just needs gasoline and red hot coke. Both of which I have in pretty good abundance and easy ways to get into all of them. But yeah, this gives me the benefit of this, option 2. It gives me the benefit of option 2 by giving me a guaranteed 1 output for 1 larva. We just would also have the ability to get like that 70%, 80%, or 90% of 2, or guaranteed 2 at the very end. So yeah, I would take option 1 here. In fact, I will take option 1 here. That I think will be wonderful. I don't see the larva being a flat +2 across the board as being sufficient enough to really justify things. If I was very desperate for a source of acetone, maybe I would go with it, but for now, that'll be my pick. It doesn't affect anything since I haven't built the thing. But yeah, I need techs. So there'll be stuff for sap and Faugi and Tufra, Zipier, biofactories. I'll try to pick up all of these by the next time we meet. It's just that, yeah, 33,000 times 6 on the amount of automation science here is a bit much. I'd much rather have the micro-org mine upgrade and the biofactory upgrade of these. The Tufra I want to see as well. Try to reduce the manure bacteria requirement if at all possible, or improve the output for it. And then there's blue science phase upgrades that I haven't even unlocked yet. Like this research upgrade, yeah, we can pick that up now, apparently. It has 4 options in it. Wonder what these do. That's the other thing that needs to be added to this, the text. You need to actually say what these options do, please, from the text screen so that I know what each of these things actually does. There needs to be a way of looking at what each of these options does before picking up the technology. Anyway, it is time to do some work on the base. Holla fricking Luya. We're halfway through the stream and we're finally going to work on making the neuroprocessors. I should have these buildings. I likely don't have 6 Mark II buildings. In fact, I have 1. Pretty sure I have 1 Mark II of this building. And my limitation in the mall is small parts. I am most definitely limited on my small part production at the moment in the mall, because I have done a thing that I haven't done before using Train Supply Manager, and I have prioritized the automation science. I've prioritized automation science for the delivery of small parts. Is Train Supply Manager good for many products but little quantity? It's been fine so far. When it comes to limited quantity, you just have to make sure that you tell your train to go to your depot when it's filled up with that whatever limited quantity you want. And that's more of a you controlling what your trains are doing, and it's a very vanilla mechanic. It's not anything that Train Supply Manager does. Train Supply Manager does not care how much stuff you have inside of your trains. That's the best part of Train Supply Manager, is that it is completely agnostic of what the trains are actually carrying and how much they're carrying. They can have as much or as little as you want in those trains, and it will do the behavior that you have assigned. Anyway, I was going to see if I could, like, steal some small parts for making engine units. I need to find if anything in here has, like, just regular engine units hanging out, doing nothing, because I need some. You know what? The pumps might. But I don't know. I need to go over here and be like, hi, yeah, enjoy. Pumps. I know the pumps use... That's an out... That's the wrong pump. Where's the other pump? There's the other pump. Hi, you are... empty. Great. And waiting on engine units. Great. You don't use engine units. You don't use engine units. What, in fact, uses engine units at Mark 1? The local radar does. The Mark 1 centrifuge and antimony drill. And the rare earth extractor. Alright then, I'm pretty sure the antimony drill up there will have it. So basically, I would like to have the Mark II nanomaterial factories. I would like to have those. So where was this? Here. You should have engine units. And you do. You should have engine units, and you do. So I will take you away. And I will add you to this guy. I have 5 now. It just needs to fill up with enough ingredients for the 6th. Then I can look for my pressure pumps. I should have pressure pumps. They don't actually use... They don't actually use circuit 2s, but they probably use the engine units. I've just thought of that. Whoopsies. Maybe walk over and grab excess engine units just in case. Build? Build. Build! Thank you. That's what I need for you. Where are those pressure pumps? Here. Have I made any? No, because I haven't actually told it to make any. Great. What a wonderful way to prepare for today. Yes, of course you need engine units. Of course you need engine units. And you need these. Yeah, makes sense that you need those. You need a lot. You need a lot. You need circuit 1s, at least, and not circuit 2s. But you need a lot of stuff. Don't know why you're using both small parts and advanced small parts, but oh well. That's just the way of things, I guess, with that particular building. That might be an error, by the way. Cough, cough, that might be a bug. Buildings, generally speaking, only use one type of small part, not 2. It should either be small parts or advanced small parts and not both on that Mark II pressure pump. And I know exactly why it would have been a problem, because Mark II pressure pumps have inherently an easier recipe than other Mark II buildings. They are a little bit different because they are circuit 1 level and not circuit 2 level. Yeah. We'll just go with circuit 1 with the level 1 pumps. It doesn't really matter. I just need to find my factory. we're going to this factory. I will absolutely not have enough Nextlit plates. By the way, I do not have enough Nextlit plates for this level of output. Not even in the remote slightest. Now, between streams, I did turn on the epoxy build. I wrapped up any remaining issues. I fixed whatever remaining issues there were, and that is the build for now. It will get cut in half once I have enough Mark II buildings to replace everything with Mark II buildings. I have, between streams, put these items onto my trains from the Circuit 2 factory. We've got the medium power resistors, the electrolytic capacitors, the PCB2s, and the MOSFETs added onto trains. I am prioritizing the circuits, though. Prioritizing the circuits, and the circuits are limited by whatever the hell this thing is. This thing is these guys. Microchips is the limiting factor. They're being limited by the doped silicon here, whichever one the white one is. And that's actually limited by the silicon wafers themselves. I need to scale my wafers, and we will actually get the ability to scale wafers in this tech level. We will get that ability, just not for now. Alright, back you go. To Mark 1. I'll build this from the finish to the beginning. Ooh, sucks that I have to get rid of that, that quartz. I always hate getting rid of quartz. Ah, but speaking of which, yeah, with Mark II building access, we will get the ability to put 2 efficiency modules on Glassworks buildings to have 20% reduction to energy consumption. That will be fantastic, reducing the amount of fuel by 20%, though it's not really a full 20% because the Mark II buildings use more power than the Mark Is do. Even though they're twice as fast, they use, I think, a little more than twice as much fuel. I need to check that, actually, because, you know, these things change from time to time. You... 10 megawatts per building, and you are 30. Yes, so it doubles the speed, but it multiplies the amount of energy used by 3. Because that's a wonderful idea. Because that's such a good idea. You go from 250 to 375. Just for the privilege of using Mark II Glassworks buildings. And at best, you get 20% energy consumption reduction, so you do 300 gas. That's just total BS. That's total BS. And you can only cut it down by 80% in total. Just for reference, only by 80%. But you can make the building go faster with speed modules. So even if you can only cut it by 80%, yeah, you can make it go super fast through the power of bacon. which is pretty agnostic to the mark level of the building. So in the grand scheme of things, what I'm likely going to end up doing with Glassworks buildings in the late game is have them surrounded by beacons that are beaconing speed and having the minus 80% energy consumption in the building itself, so that we're getting 80%, but we're also getting super duper speed from the modules in beacons, so that, yeah, we only really need one to get our intended output. That's going to be like grand scheme level shenanigans. 1.27. 1.27. Hey, I wonder if I go like Mark IV with these and then add in, whoops, not that. Put in 3 of these. You know, that's a little bit higher, but still negligible. Negligible, I would say. Anyway, let's build. Let us build. I need 2 solids brought in on this, and yeah, I'll just do that. Why the heck not? And that across. Ta-da. Okay, the 2 solids are actually being brought in by trains, so that'll go up here. We can just do 11 of these, make sure we're in line. Oh, come on. Can't draw a straight line for the life of me. Alright, there's that. Next. We need this guy. Apparently 2 of this guy. And 3 of this guy. Reference, yes, while I'm at Mark II, generally speaking, the use of Mark II buildings will involve more power. Than previously. It's just, it matters effectively only with those buildings that use fluid fuels, such as the smelter and the glassworks building. I will prefer not upgrading the mark level of those particular buildings until I have access to very good modules. Ta-da! Just add borax. Just add borax, the boriest of raxes. Okay. Now, epoxy is not stacked. Nexlet is stacked, and so is borax. I need to actually go and check how much borax production I still have available, because I don't know exactly. I have scaled up my, like, iron production recently, so I don't actually genuinely know if I have enough borax for my needs. So if we have time today... Oh, look, there's no borax on its way. Oh, boy. No, not that. If I manage to get the neuroprocessors sooner rather than later, what I will do is I will begin working towards the Mark II mechanical parts. That's our next goal, is getting into Mark II mechanical parts. Oh, borax. The borax. Hi. It would appear that I may not have enough. It would seem I don't quite have enough of the borax. The trains are a little not full at the moment. Is that 75 per second? I think I need to upgrade some things. The crystal mines go twice as fast, right? Or not? Do they go up to 3 per second rather than 2? Rather than 4? Let me see here. You are 3 per second. That it is only a 50% increase in speed with Mark II crystal mines, which blows utterly. That is awful. Though this arrangement, this line gives 15. This line gives 15 times the 5 lines. It's just, if I were to make these Mark II, they would need to be 50% longer. To get 30. To get 150 items per second out total. But it would be 30 stacked items. That would be what I would want, would be 30 stacked items. So I would need to mine elsewhere and build additional borax elsewhere. And I don't know how many borax reserves I actually have left untouched around the base. Looks like there's some all the way up here. Yeah, I think we'll be okay in the grand scheme of things. It's just we're going to be waiting a little while on the borax. That will very much have a major impact on my ability to actually make iron for small parts for science. I'll need to address that sooner. Definitely over the weekend. Well, that's that build done. Ah, yes, Anthra. There's other things I did between streams that we haven't talked about yet. So with this chemical science tech level, we have obtained new anthraquinone, a new anthraquinone recipe that does not use vanadium and instead uses chromite sand along with anthracene oil and sulfuric acid. So I'm making 1,000 of it now per second of anthraquinone, and I have modified my hydrogen peroxide build to add a few more buildings. And yeah, this is now making nearly 300 of the hydrogen peroxide, using nearly 600 anthraquinone and nearly a full red belt worth of the nickel plates when I need it. When I need it. Don't necessarily need it now, but yeah, is here is good. Is here and is good. And yeah, I have enough hydrogen peroxide for a little bit. The other thing, I did do something else. I'm trying to remember what it was. I'm sure I'll remember eventually. I scaled my iron. I got more iron. Hello. The boy. The boy is here. Hi, Ollie. How's my big boy? Mwah. And that big boy. Wanna go up? Go up behind? Under the chair? Wanna go on the chair? Yeah. Are you gonna go? Are you gonna go to the desk? As I turn the thingy on. You gonna go? You looking? Lean over. There's the Ollie. Yeah, I added more molten iron to support more iron production. I really don't remember what it was outside of the anthra that I haven't talked about yet. Anyway, stuff. Neuroprocessors. Let's get going on these. So I can actually reduce the size of this particular build now. Yeah, I can reduce this build. I don't need as many train stations as I did before, because I am now bringing in PCB2s. I don't need anything else. I have my PCB2s. So, yeah, the entire thing is just to place 4 buildings and just a huge train station just to feed 4 buildings. 4? Yes, 4 buildings with, yeah, 50% productivity. That is the plan. Because to hell with spending 10 optical or 5 optical fibers per unit neuroprocessor, that's just insanity. But yeah, everything else I'll take care of. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 input belts. Because of course it's 6 input belts plus an output belt. Okay, I hate doing 4 like that, but we will manage. Do I need that extra set? I don't think so. No. Okay, that is... Whoops. That is this side. That's where you end. Same thing on the other side, with the exception that we need to do shenanigans. So that's going there, that's going there, this is going here and here, and that's going that way, that's going across. These are going out, and we have that arrangement. Isn't it wonderful? Ah, boy. Now, don't you just love belt logistics sometimes? There's your output right there. Cool. Give power. Ta-da! Now, would it have been nice for this to be 60% productivity, but, you know, 100 megawatts? Eh. Eh. I maintain that the extra 10% in this specific circumstance, it does not necessarily matter. I just... You know, I wish there was a way to see every single item that a data array makes. I see it makes these compiled codices. Do these take productivity naturally? No. These do, yet these don't, but you only need a set number of these ever, so it does not matter for any of these codices. Compiled codices or their upgrades. Does not matter about having productivity on them, since they're only used in upgrading creatures to increase mark levels, and then the creatures, once you've done that thing, have their own breeding to get more of them at that tech level, so you don't need to make these infinitely. Yeah, so it's a little odd. Like, what would we need? Excuse me, what would we need to make infinitely in a data array that does not naturally take productivity, that would actually benefit from the 10% choice for the turd upgrades? Like, what would actually benefit from it? Just a recipe that has the inability to use productivity modules of a thing that we need to use directly for science of some description. I don't know what there is. Are these in the data array? I think these are in the data array. But their empty ones are in bioprinters. And it's not this. Oh, this would gain a 10%, wouldn't it? This would get a 10%. Yeah, that would get a 10. I don't know about the bioprinter, though. Does the bioprinter get anything? It gets a 5% biomimetics. Circuit 3s are productive themselves, so they would get 4 times 40 productivity fundamentally at the end of the game to reduce the cost of the neuromorphic chips. It's already 1 into 5. Rather than 1 into 5, it would be what? 1 into 8? Not 8. Blah. 1 into 12? 1 into 12, I think, ultimately. Ish. And by not having this 10%, like, that doesn't change these numbers too much. And the vast majority of these inputs are productive, too. Eh. Can I just do a search for data array? Because it's going to look only for the ingredients or products and not by building. That's... one of my biggest issues. Is like, can't I just do a search by building? Like, can you not show me all of the recipes by building? Because that would be great if I could just look at all of the recipes in a specific building. Because the only other thing I could think of was the neuromorphic chip, and from the empty neuromorphic chip. And that 10% is one that's a little bit of a sting to not have. But also, that's the only thing, like, that even remotely matters. And is that enough of a justification? I guess so. Alright, let's do this. Only need solids. 11 of them. Don't need any of these. Okay. Now. Okay. Need to figure out what's stacked and what's not stacked. I know nickel is stacked. Yeah, grabbing. His eyes were closed and clearly he's faking. Yeah, Ollie. Dubba. Clearly he was faking, being asleep. What do I want next? I guess I'll just do the PCB too. PCB2s. They're not stacked, I think. Our LP resistor. Oh, excuse me, these are high power resistors. Yeah, big boy. Turning around. Our air core inductors. Quest ceramic caps. All these are from circuit 1s, by the way. Quest Cermit. Request biosamples. The eyes are open. Request Agar. Request brains. Request Nexalit matrix. Matrices. Which I will need to define, actually. Oh, I did define. Cool. It just needs to exist. Request optical fiber. Alrighty then. These are not stacked, I think. Are you stacked? You are not. Brains are stacked. The Agar should be. I am nearly certain that Agar is stacked. Don't know why I don't have any Agar. Agar. Oh, Agar. Oh, Agar is stacked, yes. Good. Biosamples are not stacked. Nor is Summit. Ta-da. Dee-da-da-da-da-do-do. Okay, we have these coming in. Ceramic caps. We've got everything here is stacked. These are stacked. These are not stacked. And then this guy just exists all on its own. And that, as they say, is that. That is Neuroprocessors. Basically finished. It just needs to get a delivery of the next lit matrix and of the Cermet. We don't have any yet of this because there's no borax at the moment. I will need to fix that soon. I will limit this to one stack per doohickey. That's 400 seconds, though. Might want to do a little bit of a different thing there. But anyhoozle, that is that for Neuroprocessors. I am now complete and done, and everything is awesome-ish. Yeah, so if there's changes made with the upgrade system, that would make me want to change what I have picked of anything that I have currently picked going forward. There is a command that I can run that has been provided that will reset everything. So I need to probably write down what I have picked, and I will say I will probably change the data array option from this one to this one. I will probably change it. Ultimately, the ability to get generic DNA samples for basically free from just iron isn't as impactful as a 10% productivity to everything. It's just like, it's barely impactful at all. It does save you on automation science, and it does save you on biosamples, and from making these generic DNA samples. So there is at least that if you do pick this one. Neuromorphic chips are like the only real reason for the 10% here. So yeah, just keep that in mind. We are going to work on getting into mechanical part Mark IIs next. In order to do that, I'm going to need several things on the train network. I am going to need electronics Mark II on the train network. And we're just gonna do this as is. I can actually change this. I do have Mark II automated factories, so I can do these level 2 or these second productivity modules. I can have that. That's fine. What I should do is go to like my automation science and my small parts and get them on Mark II with the 2 productivity modules across the board. That cascading effect will definitely help a lot. So for now, 0.05 electronics Mark II, which will need to be provided onto the train network, unfortunately. Do they, though, really? If I wanted to make these Mark II items, then yes, they will need to be provided onto the train network. Otherwise, they get used pretty exclusively by mechanical parts. That makes average 20 megawatts for the Vought. Each Vought, that one makes 25 average for the Hot. 25 megawatts each. I would need 1,000. So 100 is 250, or 10 is 250, excuse me. 100 is 2 gigawatts. 2.5 gigawatts for 100 on the average output. That's not too bad, actually. Yes, space required, but not too bad of energy density. The problem is we're entering a phase of the game where I'm going to be measuring my gigawatt consumption by tens and not by individual digits. We are in the tens of gigawatts range now. Yeah, and to replace this, that would be like actually 2,000 of those particular machines. Yeah, it would be actually 2,000 of those wind turbines to like get ahead of where I'm currently at on my production. I did scale the power production a little bit more between streams. I added an extra line, and I have it online at the moment, though it looks like you are lacking a little bit. What's the tech I'm using for power production? I'm looking at it right now. I'm using coal power plants. I am using coal power plants for everything. All of the power in the base is through coal power plants at the moment. I took a look at nuclear. It's pretty much what you expect it to be, actually. Where did I play around with nuclear? I played with it somewhere in here. Was it you? Oh yeah, it was you. Hi. So this is nuclear. Let me get this out of the way of the kitty. Yeah, so this is nuclear. Say hello to the initial nuclear power. This is all part of nuclear energy production. Making 100 gigawatts from this particular plan from 6.5 uranium ore. Yeah. It's a thing. It is most definitely a thing. Yeah, everything until the very end is fine. It's just the number of heat exchangers is rather extreme. I know I'll have access to Mark IIs, but the heat exchangers and the steam turbines is a little much. Just so I'm looking at the Mark IIs here, 213 heat exchangers and 210 steam turbines. Mark II. The problem is you can't change these numbers without also impacting how many you would need with like coal power generation. Yeah. So what you do with this is you essentially make your hot molten salt in a fluid separator, strangely, from spent reactor fuel. So you're actually getting your power via spent reactor fuel. Right? And like it's coming from this stuff here. And you can actually reprocess this 10-degree uranium hexafluoride instead of using it for power. You can reprocess this into the U-248. I just have it here for power. Since it just works out evenly that way. Yeah, but you're spending a whole bunch of steps with these GPUs, just heating some and cooling the rest, and then like trying to heat up as much of it as you can, and it just gets colder and colder and colder and colder on some of the output until you get down to 10 degree. It's like, okay, but you start with 70. You start with 70 from yellow cake and hydrofluoric acid. But then you look at these inputs. Okay, I want to show you these inputs here. We've got close to 5 iron dust. We've got a whole bunch of regular steam. Quite a lot of that. Quite a lot of pressured water is involved here. Over 1100 sulfuric acid. 110.6 sodium hydroxide. 47-ish powdered phosphate. 47-ish purified quartz. Another 35 cellulose. A bunch of vacuum. Bunch of borax. Bunch of filtration media. A lot of slaked lime. We've got coated containers in here. We've got an absolute gargantuan amount of phosphoric acid consumed in here as phosphoric acid for this analyte material. Yeah. I'm going to go out on the limb and say that all of these input ingredients, if you actually look at the amount of power it takes to do all of that, that this is not good for power. Not at this phase of the game, anyway. So, stuff. Let's not be too awfully distracted here. Yeah, the net power does not appear to be particularly exciting. Okay, well, we'll do electronics Mark II. That's next. I will need quite a few inputs on this. That's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Glorious, beautiful things. Number of buildings is small, so I will do this here next to my wonderful build for the Circuit 2s. Speaking of Circuit 2s, now that I do have access to Mark II buildings as well as to productivity modules, I am likely going to be splitting this factory up, replacing elements of it with input from outside of this area. I think in the end, this whole thing will be removed with each segment in bespoke separate factories that are producing at scale, because this factory does not scale at all much beyond its current extents. And I definitely need more than 1 per second of Circuit 2s. I need infinity per second of Circuit 2s. In reality, I need infinite numbers. But I would say that at the beginning here, I want 5. I want 5. Like, I want to have 5. And I want to probably be producing twice as much of the transistors, inductors, diodes, and like microchips and all this other stuff, twice as much as required to make those 5. Just across the board to have available on the train network. And that's going to involve a ton of wafers. Oh, goodness. So wafers, we will have, we don't have it yet, wafer silicon processing stage 2 through polycrystalline silicon plates. Through the polycrystalline. I want 15 at least. This is a productive process, so we will get that gain. Polycrystalline silicon, this process, are you productive? Yes, you are. Good. We've got some cascading productivity. We will need a diamond wire from a diamonds and a whole bunch of other stuff, but fortunately this is also a productive process. I will not have high pressure furnace access, unfortunately. But yeah, still that's productive. The polycrystalline slab does not take productivity. We would need to make crucibles, and we'll have to have our electronics grade silicon as well, which is not productive. Nor is the crucible production. Great. Fantastic. Fantastic stuff. But 2.09 electronics grade silicon, if I can find and compare that one. This was processing 11.37 electronics grade silicon to make 5 wafers. We go from 1137 to make 5 to 2 to make 15. But we're spending stainless steel. And we're spending wax. I will take that. I will gladly take that. It is worth it. Come on, you. Yeah, especially since, you know, right now we've got the Archods going with their plus 3% productivity cascading about the place. They'll probably stop working soon because of the lack of space for additional empty barrels. Yeah. To think I will need to set up voiding of excess empty barrels. Oh boy, yeah, that's gonna be fun. Having to void excess empty barrels. Okay. So we have what? 13? 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. No, not looking at the right thing here. Not looking at the right thing. Need to look at you. And you, not the epoxy. So we have 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 inputs, of which PCB2s are one of them. How many fluids do we have here? 0? 0. And this is what's going to use the MOSFETs, selector-led capacitors, and medium-powered resistors. I already have the bakelite as well, so let's keep that in mind. So just 14 glorious thingies. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Ta-da! Goodness, I hope I have enough, like, stuff on me for all this. So fortunately with the nuclear stuff, you don't need to spend nuclear power anywhere. Like, you don't need to actually do the nuclear power generation to get nuclear products. So that's fortunate enough. You can avoid it if you don't want to make power out of it. It just produces, if you do make power out of it, you can use outputs from it to help with getting more of those actual, like, ingredients that you need that are nuclear related. Okay. The actual factory is quite literally just 4 buildings in total. Da 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 da. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 1. Great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ta-da! You give power all the way down. Should be fairly clear how I'm setting all this up. I would hope. So at the very bottom we have copper, followed by tin. Copper and tin both are stacked, and I can unstack them. Kappa, glorious Kappa. We got a tech. What was that tech that was just being worked on? I didn't pay any attention. Which one was that again? Was it the fiberboard? Seems I have my fiberboard one at this point, right? That's going to be interesting going forward. The fiberboard 2 recipe set. I have decided against using the anthraquinone fiberboard recipe because it's not, because it uses more treated wood than the recipe that doesn't use anthraquinone. That was silver 2. Okay, that's also good to have. That is also really good to have. Once I pick up these, what do I want to work towards? I want, at this point, it doesn't really matter, frankly, what I get from here, I think. So it's just going to be a matter of unlocking things, getting the rest of the techs, because nothing is going to be immediately relevant. It's going to take a little bit of time before anything becomes relevant. I want the access to cold air. Cough, cough. Potentially. Actually, what I want is chromium. Molten chromium. I want to get into alloy smelting 3 as well as the gold. That requires U to get U. Then I guess I'll pick up gold. I'll leave this as is for now. Techs I'm picking up are not really chem techs. You are, though. And that'll be really good if I can get some productivity on those buildings. We'll see what the options are. Next up, we've got U, which is rubber and circuits. The circuits are stacked. Is my rubber stacked? I don't remember. Rubber is stacked as well. I do have access to the next rubber recipe. And that will definitely come in handy. It will very much come in handy. So rubber here. To make 15 rubber, I will only need 4.5 latex going forward. At very cheap cost. Basically, the anthracene oil use goes down, which of course that's being used for anthraquinone now. I think the aromatics goes down by a lot. The naphthalene oil is removed entirely, as is the carbolic oil. They are removed entirely. I will not need organic solvent anymore, which is huge. I will need 15 salt for 15 rubber, 1-to-1. And, yeah, this is just really good, just in general. It's very, very good. I want to use this. I want to use the final recipe, but this is still good. I've also been looking at the next lit upgrade. I've been looking at worker food. I've been looking at starch for the worker food. I've been looking at fiberboard for the starch for the worker food. This is the fiberboard recipe that I want to do in the end. The sodium sulfate, I have to laugh at the sodium sulfate. I do have access to drilling fluid 2 now. I do not have guar built. We will need to build guar sooner rather than later so that I can do drilling fluid 2. It's very important because I think that spending the small parts to get saline is actually going to be worth it. In the grand scheme, I think that this is going to be worth it. I'm literally making 45 small parts per second right now, up to, as long as I have the borax to support it. And I need more. I do need more. I'm going to be making so many small parts. It's going to be insane. But, yeah, it's either I spend 4.17 small parts or I spend 2,000 tar. You know? Actually, I want to do Tufra scaling so I could do silver enriched biomass as well and help out with that through the silver enriched biomass process. Great. Yeah, I gotta do this with the silver enriched biomass in mind as well. I've got productivity now, so that really messes with the sodium hydroxide loop, the slaked lime loop. I'll have to deal with excess limestone coming out of it, but that's fine. It was built to be that way, on purpose. So yeah, just, the things I've been thinking about between our streams here. Next, what is our next input here. One, we're beginning the inputs directly on the electronics now. Most of these are not stacked in reality, but I guess I will go with the ones that are first. Iron. Good luck with getting iron. Not while I'm limited by borax. Our glass. Our aluminium. I think that's the only things that are stacked, frankly. Okay, next. So while we will get the electronics today, I will not really have any real progression beyond this, because yeah, but I also need to make like the Nextlit batteries and the vinyl acrylate for EVA. Before I can get into mechanical parts. Alright. Request. Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm missing solder. Our solder. Our MOSFETs. Our electrolytic capacitors. Our medium power resistors. Our bakelite, bakelite, whatever, however you want to pronounce it. Our epoxy. Supply electronic mark or electronics 02. Depot electronics 02. Solder. The solder. Must get the solder. MOSFETs. It's medium dash power, I think, yeah. Electrolytic capacitors. Bakelite. I don't remember if I'm stacking my bakelite. Pretty sure I'm not stacking literally anything of these, but I shall find out pretty quickly. Is my solder stacked? My solder is stacked. It's a good thing I check these things from time to time. Okay. How are you looking? you need things. You need iron, but iron's probably not going to show up for, oh, quite some time. Quite some time, I think. Oh, we need a radar down here. There you go. Enjoy radar. Yeah, iron is very limiting right now. And limited. Now for you, you're going to be special. Supply, depot, full cargo, circuit condition, item count of electronics Mark II. If I can find it in this list. There you are. Greater than or equal to how much? So we have 0.05 per second. uh, 10. Yeah, that'll take 3 1/3 minutes of production. Usually I target around 3 to 5-ish minutes of production on a single train load. So, yeah, 10. Now imagine when I need to make electronics Mark III and Mark IV. How things are going to be. For reference, this recipe needs some work. It needs a little bit of work. It is way too low of output for the input ingredients for it. It is not a very good. It's not good. Like, it's a really bad recipe overall. It's not just that it's painful. Yes, it's complex, it's painful, but it's the volume that's the problem, and the volume is not what should be the problem. Where even is? Hello? That thingy that I'm just now looking at. I'm blind there. Under no universe should I need 40 MOSFETs to make 3 electronics Mark IIs. Actually, was this better? Is this better now? Hold up. Hold on. This has been stealthed. This was stealthed. Hi. Yeah, you're different. You're different. You got changed. Hold up. Hold on. One moment, please. Mod backup. Pi. Alternative energy. 115. Prototypes. Recipes. What would this fall under? Would this be under the general recipes? I think so. Electronics. No, this doesn't define electronics Mark II. What? Volume of reality does not actually play any part in this mod set. Which file would this be in? So we've got recipes wind, no. Recipes simic boiler, no. Recipes SI, silane, silicon, silicon related. Okay, recipes SB. That's antimony stuff. Radioisotopes, that's the uranium stuff. Photonic chips, not seeing. Electronics, oil, salt, no. Nuclear thorium, no. Nuclear plant, no. No. Moth. No. LRF, salt, no. Lithium. Don't think it would be under lithium. Intermetallic stuff. No electronics here. Nope. Not going to be under heat exchanger. Not in that one. Not in gas plant. Definitely wouldn't be. Huh. That's super weird. Why would it not be under prototypes recipes? Is it under prototypes updates? To high tech? No, not under there. Where the freaking hell are you defining? Do they define electronics? Which file? Hi. Which mod? Should be under alternative energy, but you never know. Electronics 2 is defined in alternative energy. Yeah, so it's like, okay, well, where are you? Where are you? You should be under recipes. It should be under recipes. Just general recipes. And yet, it doesn't seem to be. So under general recipes, we have mechanical parts Mark II using electronics Mark II. But it's not, it doesn't, and like all of the, there's all of those there for the mechanical parts. The mechanical parts get defined in recipes. And yet, not the others. I'm just gonna open all. Open all, please. Edit with notepad. Plus plus. Ah. Okay. I found it. First thing. I found it first thing. You know what it was under? Recipes dash wind. So, yeah, it was 50 MOSFETs for 1. It was 50 to 1. It was 50 to 1. I can now confirm. It used to be 50 to 1, and now it has been changed to be 40 to 3. That is an improvement. That is a fairly significant improvement. Is it enough of an improvement? Probably not, but it is better than what it was. It used to, it was, yeah, it was, let's go item by item here. It was 50 red wires to 1. Now it's 50 to 3. It was 10 epoxy to 1, and now it's to 3. It was 20... Was it 20 backlight? Yeah, 20 backlight to 1. Now it's 20 to 3. The resistor 2s... Yep, that's 15. That did not change. The capacitor 2s did not change. The MOSFETs were reduced and changed. The PCB 2s did not change. I think nothing else about this recipe was touched. Yeah. So it cut down on the MOSFETs by 10, and it is a 3-item output. So I can actually I can tell it to make like 1 now, and we can just cry about it at 1. You'll make point 1. I was about to say, okay, we'll do point 2 actually. That just means I need a couple extra buildings here, and we will end the stream here with this. This one building will make 0.18. 0.18? Can I just tell it to do 0.18? Yeah. We'll stick with the 0.18. We'll stick with the full output of that one, but I do need a second of this. There we go. That does it. And that should improve the throughput once we've got iron plates brought in. Then we'll have sufficient electronic 2s, I guess. Somewhat sufficient. I can actually tell this to hold more than 10 now. 0.18. So we have 120 divided by 0.18 is... what? Oh no, 120 times 0.18 is 22, so we can do 25-ish. 25 units as opposed to 10 per trip. Just that, such a huge difference that makes. Yeah, it's still low, but better than previously, and it's going to be enough to cover my mechanical part production, which will be 0.5. I need 0.09. 0.09 for 0.5, and the science is going to use like half of that production of the mechanical parts just to do like 1 of these. I'm not even going to plan for 1. I'm going to plan for 0.5. So yeah, I will have enough of this for now, and we'll see as we get later how the productivity is going to interact with things, because it's a productive recipe. I don't remember if it was productive before either. I think it may have been. I don't know. I would have to look at a different file to see. But yeah. So that was a thing. It was in Recipes Wind! Of all things. Like, my goodness. I cannot believe it was in Recipes Wind. Alright then. Well, with that, folks, we have reached the end of the stream today. I spent the first half just talking, because we've got our new update here with all of these upgrades shenanigans. As I had decided, I'm probably going to switch this if I need to do a reset at any point, but I'm going to try not to. I absolutely will take the CAGs here. I'll have to go and make some adjustments to my apiary setup for this. Yeah, I'm okay with all my other choices. We're gonna probably go with this one for moss in the end. The high density cultures. I just need to switch to water everywhere, etc., etc. We've got CO2, wonderful stuff. You caught the end of the stream once again. Yes, we have reached the end. I just got electronics and noticed that the electronics were buffed, were changed, improved. The Mark II electronics, we caught that they were improved here at the very end. Yeah, makes a pretty big difference because they were really bad. Now they're just sort of bad. uh yeah, it was very, now only sorta. Still a bit much, but we can manage, I think, with these guys. I think we can manage now on this. We've obtained, theoretically, neuroprocessors today. I have to bring them to the mall and use them when they get made. When they get made. When I have borax again. That'll be the first thing I do, is go out and get more borax online to fully support all of the production that needs it. For now, though, I'd like to thank you all for watching. This has been Otaku Showit. If you have reached the end of this video, please be sure to do all the social and engagement stuff down below. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you have not yet subscribed, and hit the notification bell. Consider becoming a member of the channel by hitting that great big blue join button. And support on Patreon at patreon.com/OtakuShowit if you are so inclined and able. I will be back with more on Tuesday. I hope to see you all then.